Tom Vilsack in Jefferson City. The top USDA leader spoke at Lincoln University on Monday.
It's designed specifically to expand markets for U.S. agricultural products and forestry products through voluntary deployment of conservation practices that will lead to the production of these climate-smart commodities.
Public and private entities can apply, including state governments, federally recognized Native American tribal governments, and public and private higher education institutions. Columbia staff leaders say the city needs a long-term permanent solution to the issue of homelessness. Staff members presented a detailed report to the council last night. That report says the Wabash Station downtown is not an ideal location for an emergency overnight warming center, that it's unsuitable during a pandemic. Staff officials hopeful a comprehensive homeless services center will be developed soon with the city's support and the collaboration of community partners. Columbia City Council has also approved a plan to help pay for the replacement of 3 bridges located on the MKT Trail. The council has approved a request from Parks and Recreation to apply for a $250,000 federal grant. If the grant is approved, Columbia's Parks and Recreation would use $275,000 from the November park sales tax extension to complete the project. Staff hoping to replace MKT Trail bridges 2, 9, and 10. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you this morning by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your heating needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News time, 6:07. In sports, the Mizzou men's basketball team is on the road. They're in Nashville battling Vanderbilt tonight. Tigers on the year 9-13. Tip-off tonight, 8 o'clock. Catch all the action. Mike Kelly, Chris Trevino, 7:30 tonight. Zimmer radio station, KCMQ, our Tiger Network affiliate, 96.7. You can hear Mike and Chris on the call. They're already in Nashville today. Our sports brought to you this hour by Steve's Pest Control, stevespestcontrol.com. 93.9 The Eagle News time, 6:07. All right, Kevin, thank you. Our weather is brought to you this hour by Steve's Pest Control. 5-star service now. stevespestcontrol.com. 36 degrees. It's 6:08, 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. Traffic check with midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com. Find a job. Post your job opening today. The ramp coming down on I-70 from the Lake of the Woods exit. Getting onto that ramp heading westbound, there are definitely some icy spots. Be very careful there. They're going to need to get out and treat that if they have not done so at this time. That is a problem area. That was a problem area last week as well. If there are other issues we need to know about, give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. We'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
We the people seek your vote to preserve the full $25 million in ARPA funds. We ask this in order to provide necessary resources and services to the members of our community disproportionately impacted by the deep-seated causes of racial inequity.
Okay, that happened at your city council meeting last night. $25 million in ARPA money. Pat Fowler ended the meeting last night. Yeah, we're going to, you know what, let's hold this money right now. I know we've been talking for months how we're going to, but wait, because now we had a whole bunch of people show up at the meeting and say, no, we should use this talk because people, because of their color of skin, they were more affected by this. How about you give it to the money? Give the money to all the businesses that got screwed, because COVID didn't screw these businesses. Make no mistake about it. I get tired when I see, whether it's print media, whatever it is, when I hear on other radio shows, whatever, well, COVID just really crushed businesses. No, COVID did nothing. COVID did absolutely nothing to businesses. It was government. COVID didn't shut businesses down. COVID didn't say, well, you can only allow in 10% of the people in your business. That was people like, the mayor, Stephanie Browning. It wasn't COVID. Stop it. That's a lie. It's wrong. We're going to have more on that, but first let's get to the big story of this morning. I'm texting with State Senator Holly Rathert. Still at it. 7162. Bottom line, what happened last night, overnight, Brian?
Well, it's still going on. And it's a little complex, so I'll try to sum it up as best I can because it's a little complex. And if Senator Rathert is able to come on sometime this morning, that would be great to get a report. But here is the situation in a nutshell. There has been one vote. It was 24-8 against the 7-1 map, and that vote happened just before midnight. All 10 Democrats, no surprise there, voted against the map, and you've asked me for kind of the scorecard on that, and I've got the entire list. 24 overall, so 10 Democrats, 14 Republicans voted against 7-1. I can't speak for all of them, but a number of them are having concerns that they think 7-1 could end up in a court battle, if you will. All three, there's technically four. Senator Riddle was not at the Capitol last night. But all three senators, Branden and Stephanie from mid-Missouri, voted against 7-1. Caleb Browden of Columbia, who kind of hinted at that last week, he was going to vote against it. Mike Bernskatter from Jefferson City, who's a very prominent senator from that district, voted against 7-1. And the other one who represents our region, and a lot of our listeners may not recognize it, but it's Cindy O'Laughlin, who's from Shelbina. She has Randolph County and a big chunk of our northern listening counties. She voted against 7-1 as well. Her vote is significant in that she's a member of the Conservative Caucus. She still voted 7-1. So essentially, it's hard to say. There's Steve Roberts is up on the floor right now, who's a Democratic senator from St. Louis. He has some concerns about the district involving Cori Bush, so he's on the floor right now. But realistically, it's going to be hard for the Conservative Caucus unless people change their votes. I guess they could, but they can at least talk about it. And Dave Schatz, when he texted me back, the pro tem, said this could take a while. It's going to take a while.
All right. Texting with State Senator Holly Rathert. They're still at it. Right.
Well, and they actually voted last night. Someone made a motion to just adjourn and go home for good. For good.
Sine die.
Yeah. And so it failed, obviously, but I think some people are ready to go home, obviously. I know there was, the first map that was put out was the 7-1 map, but then there was some amendments to tweak, I think, Congressional District 2. Any word on where that ended up?
Let me just check on that. That is, I think, and that may be a little bit of what Steve Roberts is up right now. My understanding was, and that's obviously out of our area, but still it's very important. I don't believe that has been, I think that's still being discussed right now.
Okay.
But that is a big deal in that Steve Roberts has concerns about what's going to happen potentially in a boundary with Cori Bush. But Stephanie, the soundbite that Branden played yesterday with Bill Eigel was referring to exactly what you're talking about. The Republicans are worried that this 6-2 map could put Ann Wagner at risk in another election cycle or so because of the Democratic growth has been kind of going out that way.
The 7-1 map, according to the computer models, actually have better compactness than the 6-2 models, which I found surprising, but that's what the numbers say. So it's a map that can be compact, it's constitutional, and it can be relatively safe. Now, that doesn't mean that no Republican could possibly ever lose that, but if you look at the map that came over from the House right now, that is almost certainly a 5-3 map by the end of by the middle of the decade because of the trends that we're seeing in St. Louis County.
Bill Eigel, This Week in Missouri Politics. In that audio that Brian Hauswirth was referring to, there was a lot of action on the Capitol yesterday. I don't know who different accounts. I think the Missouri Independent said there were about 100 folks that showed up to do. They walked around the Capitol and they prayed, and then they went into office. They went in front of the offices of various senators and they prayed there. Hannah, is my tweet, is that in bad taste regarding this topic?
No.
No?
No, it took some explaining because I didn't pay attention the first time.
Well, if you read the story, so here's I'll tell you the tweet. I think even my dad might be a little upset if he saw my tweet. But first, let's talk to Arnie Dienoff. Joining us for the show right now, ran for governor. If you're in Jefferson City, if you're in the Capitol, you've seen Arnie before. He has been following this all night long. Arnie, thank you for joining us briefly here on 93.9 The Eagle. A couple of quick observations.
Hey, good morning, Branden. Yeah, I've been up all night. It's been a lot of rhetoric. Really, they haven't discussed the issue. It seems like a lot of the debate and discussions are happening behind closed doors. They're talking about a lot, they're reciting books and rhetoric. Right now, Senator Koenig from Baldwin, West St. Louis County, is reading from the Book of Darwin. So they're really not talking about the issues on the Senate floor. They're not debating it. That's happening, unfortunately, behind closed doors.
All right. I'm reminded of Ted Cruz reading Green Eggs and Ham. What was it, 2011, 2010, just trying to stretch time. So while prior to them just trying to kill this thing, anything interesting? Let me ask, decorum. How is the decorum on the Senate floor?
It depends. I mean, right now you have three factions in the state Senate. You have your moderate Republicans, which is about 10. You have 10 ultra-conservatives, and then you have 10 Democrats. There's a couple of vacancies, and there's a couple that are kind of play the fence either way. But it just depends. I mean, if the conservative Democrats are up, they're taking some pokes. The Democrats are definitely taking pokes at the Republicans in terms of, this is going to bring on lawsuits. It's going to bring on the federal government coming in, looking at these not being fair to the demographics of the state.
All right, Arnie Dienoff, been following this all night. He's in Jefferson City following this. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Maybe we'll check in again if you get some more highlights. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Columbian.
The one thing that Stephanie referenced to was that insight there from Arnie was spot on. He's absolutely right. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. What specifically, nobody knows. But it was Mike Moon that made the motion to actually end the session. That failed in a 25-1 vote against. Theoretically, I guess they could, but they are required under the Constitution to pass a budget. They've not even really, I'm laughing because he is so frustrated. Senator Mooney is right now. The other thing Koenig is reading is a book right now. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. There's apparently a book by that name, so he's reading from that. And then Caitlin Schallhorn of the Missouri Times has just reported multiple Senate hearings scheduled for today in the 1 o'clock hour have been canceled. That tells me this is going. That's what I'm thinking. Probably it could go into tomorrow. It could go into Thursday.
What's the name of the book?
According to Caitlin Schallhorn, who's a really good reporter, worth a follow at the Missouri Times, the book is called, quote, "I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist," end of quote. Senator Koenig is reading from that. He's a outspoken conservative from the Manchester area, member of the Conservative Caucus.
So what's the end goal here? They're holding up the Senate. The 7-1 map failed. And they're just filibustering. So we know behind closed doors there's some negotiating going on. Is the negotiating, you think, solely to do with redistricting? Are there other priorities going on? Because it really doesn't seem like there's much room for compromise. Either you get a map that's 7-1 or you get a map that's 6-2. So I guess what are we waiting for?
I would say Caleb Browden is probably in the best position to answer that, but I think you're exactly right, Stephanie. I don't think there's any other issues like, let's say, abortion, guns, no other issue. It's just that. But they're digging in it. And Senator Roberts is clearly on the floor right now, concerned about some boundary involving Cori Bush, is my understanding. And maybe it's going too far west for district from his perspective. I'm a little unclear on that. But the Democrats are going to use this as an opportunity to talk as well. This bottom line, they have some power here. They can talk.
And the potential implications, by the way, of a 7-1 map that gets, at least for the next 10 years, that gets another, not guaranteed, but a pretty strong chance that it would be a Republican seat in D.C. So you're, in effect, flipping a seat. That's one of the benefits to that happening. Ted Cruz was talking about Ted Cruz's famous filibuster.
Them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse.
That's a good question. If you were elected to office and you opted to filibuster and had to read a book in the middle of the night, what's your book?
I like the book that Brian Hauswirth has been talking about. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. By the way, I hope my dad's not listening. When he might get mad. I did a tweet this morning. So all these people, they go to the Capitol, and listen, I pray too. I don't say it's praying. I talk to a God as I understand him. People get upset. They say, do you believe in God? And I say, which one? Which to me shows the ignorance of some. Well, there's only one God. No, there's not. I have one God. You might have one God. You have your own one God, but there's not one God. And that usually makes them mad. Anyhow, I tweeted the story about this failing so far, and I said, so there's 8 people in the Senate that are going, dang rhinos, because there's 8 people that voted for the 7-1. Most of the other folks like, yeah, okay. And my atheist friend said, so prayer didn't work. That's what I got from this story.
The timing is really bizarre because the Senate was supposed to go in at noon. And so they had their thing in the morning, the prayer walk and everything else. Then they were supposed to go in at noon. I guess they were caucusing and meeting beforehand. I don't think they actually went in until 6 o'clock. So you're wondering, is that just to make everyone extra tired and try to run the clock out on them? I don't know. It'll be interesting because okay, so it is 6 now. So 12 hours, right? We've been going for 12 hours. Yikes.
Going for a while, and they are still going at it. Of course, we'll keep you updated throughout the morning. I know a lot of local interest in this as Caleb Branden kind of been the centerpiece of a lot of this. Coming up, 626 Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. What's underneath the circus tent this morning?
A top Biden advisor calling it quits.
Wake up Columbia with an eye on the world and a focus on you. 93.9 The Eagle.
It was conveyed through meetings with senior White House officials directly that his behavior was inappropriate, corrective action was needed.
Is Jen Psaki talking about Joe Biden? His behavior was inappropriate, needed get I'm guessing that's not it. But that gets us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell on 93.9 The Eagle.
It was Eric Lander, who is the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy. Apparently, he was a bully, and he bullied his staffers and treated them disrespectfully. They conducted an investigation, and now he has resigned on his own accord, although people are pointing out that Biden on Inauguration Day said he expected honesty and decency from everyone who worked for him, and that if anyone shows disrespect to others, he would fire them on the spot.
With the exception of the former reporter who was, or the former member of his staff who was harassing a female reporter within days after him making that statement.
Yes, and the White House has actually confirmed that they did not request Lander's investigation or resignation, even though the investigation uncovered that he did treat his staff wrongly. But Lander decided, hey, I can't go forward, and so he has officially resigned. Also, yesterday, a report came out, 70-page report released from the Commission on Combating Synthetic Opioid Trafficking. While we've been talking about COVID for 2 years, overdose deaths surpassed 100,000 in the last year. That's catching a lot of people's attention, and people are now trying to decide, how do we address this? What do we do going forward? In the same vein, I guess the Justice Department won this big court battle about these safe havens for these areas where you could go and use drugs to prevent fatal overdoses. What are they called? Do you know what they're called? Overdose prevention centers. And there was a big lawsuit about it. They actually won, but they haven't really weighed in. New York opened one, and the Justice Department's been really silent. Apparently, they're considering about weighing in the Biden administration. Trump, of course, was adamantly opposed. Biden's considering, what do they really think about these overdose prevention centers?
Last night's city council meeting, folks want to rework what they're going to do with $25 million of your tax money. Wait till you hear what they want to spend it on. We're going to get into that coming up at 6:35 here on 93.9 The Eagle. I have your ABC 17 storm track forecast. Clouds moving in today, but otherwise some snow melting temps close to 60. We won't quite hit 60, but we'll get close. Then tonight 31, tomorrow mostly sunny, high 53. Right now it is 36. Remember, you've got a friend in the pest control business, and your problem will be solved. And that's not just the guarantee. It's a personal promise from Steve. Find out about their 5-star service right now just by logging on to stevespestcontrol.com.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. A man suspected of shooting 2 people, killing one at a supermarket in Richland, Washington, is caught by police 130 miles away. The man killed was an Instacart shopper and delivery driver named Justin Crumbaugh. Roxanne Reynolds works at the store and says about the shooting.
He's taken away an uncle from 2 children who absolutely adored him. He's taken away a brother from a family, a son. He was a good guy.
No word on a motive for the shooting. The Supreme Court overturns an order to redraw Alabama's congressional districts.
A 3-judge lower court had ruled the state likely violated the Federal Voting Rights Act by diluting black voters. The Supreme Court will at a later date decide whether the map drawn by Alabama's Republican-controlled legislature violates the Voting Rights Act, but likely won't affect elections in the state until 2024.
Fox's Rich Dennison. America's listening to Fox News.
And now, award-winning news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:31. Right now, we do have clear skies in Columbia and also in mid-Missouri. It's 35 right now. In Columbia, it's 34 degrees in Jefferson City. Our high today around 57. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low near 31. Tomorrow, sunshine, a high of 53. And Thursday, sunny with a high of 43 degrees. Good morning, everyone. And here's some of the stories that we are working on for you at this hour. We have some breaking news right now because there is essentially a standstill going on right now in the Missouri Senate. There are a couple of senators up right now delivering a blistering criticism criticism of Attorney General Eric Schmitt and the way he has conducted himself with these lawsuits. More on that in a moment. The Senate has been debating the controversial issue of congressional redistricting all night. They remain in session at this hour as we speak. They've been in session since 4:45 yesterday afternoon. The GOP-controlled state Senate voting 24-8 to reject the 7-1 congressional map. 14 Republicans voting against 7-1, including the 3 GOP state senators who represent Mid-Missouri, Columbia's Caleb Browden, Jefferson City's Mike Bernskatter, and Shelbina's Cindy O'Loughlin. Springfield Congressman Billy Long, who's seeking Missouri's GOP Senate nomination, wants lawmakers to approve a 7-1 GOP map.
I tweeted out a simple tweet. It said 7 plus 1 makes 8. 6 plus 2 makes no sense.
And that's Billy Long speaking on Wake Up Columbia. 7-1 supporters rallying Monday in Jefferson City. Some Republicans favor a 6-2 map because they worry a 7-1 map will lead to a lawsuit. Now to what is going on in the Missouri Senate right now. The Democrats are on the floor. Senator Doug Beck, who is a Democrat from Afton, Senator Steve Roberts, other Democrats are on the floor right now. They're talking about Attorney General Eric Schmitt. They're complaining that he is seeking, according to them, seeking headlines with these lawsuits instead of helping consumers with recalls. They're talking about recalls involving, I believe, vehicles they're referencing right now. That is what is being discussed right now. Another senator says Attorney General Schmitt, instead of focusing on the headline, should be investigating the Tory Sanders case, which is down in southeast Missouri. So they're going to have the floor for some time right now. They're on the floor right now, again, criticizing Attorney General Schmitt. Jefferson City authorities say a white powder found in a package delivered in the mail Monday to the Missouri Department of Corrections Central Office contained the main ingredient for Tylenol. Our sister station, KWS, reports 50 to 60 employees at the DOC Central Office at Plaza Drive were evacuated after the package was opened. That's right off of 179. The employee who opened the package monitored in an ambulance. Central Office reopening a Monday afternoon. That case still under investigation. And Columbia's council hopeful last night's vote to add a full-time position for solid waste packers will help make trash collection operations more reliable. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you live on this Tuesday morning by Mid-America Mortgage. Check them out online, midamericamortgage.us, and apply now for a loan on your dream home. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:35. Turning our attention now to sports. The Mizzou men's basketball team is on the road in Nashville to battle Vanderbilt tonight. The Tigers 9-13. They're coming off Saturday's road win at Texas A&M. Tip-off set for 8 o'clock our time. You can hear all the action with Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino starting at 7:30 tonight on Zimmer Station KCMQ, which is FM 96.7. Mizzou coming off again that win against A&M. They'll get Ole Miss coming up on Saturday evening. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:35. And our traffic check is with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. Again, roads right now in pretty good shape. I just got word from News Director John Marsh at our sister station, KWS in Jefferson City. And thank you to John for his help on that story about that powder found at the DOC headquarters yesterday. John is reporting there is an accident on the tri-level approach to the westbound Missouri River Bridge with one lane closed. That's in Jefferson City, according to KWS, our sister station there. So be prepared for that if you're heading to the capital city. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
%41 of the public school children in this city qualify for free and reduced price meals. 4 out of 10 kids are right now at home, many of them probably hungry. We're not going to be hungry. All of us are going to go home. If we want a snack, we'll get one. They're hungry. How in a city of this kind of wealth do we have 4 in 10 kids whose hunger or basic human need isn't met? Somebody make that make sense for me.
I can do that. Ask and ye shall receive. That's part of being a local radio station. When you ask for advice at the city council meeting, please explain how these kids are going on and all this. Well, let me help you out here. This happened, by the way, in our city council meeting last night. I got to tell you this, Will. One of my big things, get out, get involved. Whether you go into pachyderm meetings or election integrity meetings or city council meetings. These people that want to take that $25 million in ARPA funds and say, well, we just need to put it all to the people that, because of the color of their skin and stuff like that. Those are the people who are showing up at meetings. So think about this from a city council person's point of view. If you're sitting up on the dais, whether you're in Ashland, whether you're an older woman in Ashland, whether you're a city council person in Jefferson City or Columbia, the people on the council, they have, when they're getting bombarded with people that are all on message, all want the same thing, what's that perception? That perception is, this is what people want because this is what people are coming and testifying about. Nobody's coming and speaking against this. And these are the people that are going to city council meetings. So this woman is making, she's pulling a stat, 4 out of 10 kids, the free reduced lunch. But I was embarrassed as a kid in an inner city school in St. Louis. And when I say inner city, everybody knows what inner city means, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the bad part of town. You know my neck of the woods, Brian Hauswirth. I grew up in a bad part of town. And I paid 40 cents for lunch. That was reduced lunch. So she's using that as an argument. She talks about the wealth. How are these people going hungry? And I agree. And that's why, for example, the Zimmer Radio Group, we do our 1-for-1 holiday food drive every single year to help. We don't rely on the government. I'm not going to take Stephanie Bell's tax money. Say, here, Stephanie, I know you work hard. You're an attorney, a rising star, Ellinger and Associates. You're on the Ashland Board of Aldermen. You're on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. I'm not going to take Stephanie's money and give it to somebody else for whatever reason they need it. Maybe they're in a jam. Or maybe, that's just the way they've grown up. And they think that's the norm. You get into a deeper issue, the family unit and all that, and I get that, but that's not for right now. I don't rely on Stephanie's tax money. I'm not going to take her tax money and give it to somebody else. Brian, I'm not taking your tax dollars and giving it to somebody else. I'm not doing it. So as this woman just said, with all the wealth in this town, how is this possible? Well, what have you done? I wonder, this woman, are you giving them some of your money? Are you helping? This is a private thing, man.
Well, and I think we have to be, we have to be careful that we're not just throwing money at a problem that, doesn't exist, or that we're duplicating resources. And so I don't know this current situation with Columbia. I thought they were on free meals already. I know at Southern Boone, my understanding is if you were, I think, under 50 or over 50% free and reduced, it's free. It was free last year, breakfast and lunch. All students, every single person gets free lunch. So if she's suggesting that we need to throw more money at school meal programs right now, my understanding is that's already covered by USDA funds. And so we need to, we need people who know what they're doing, and we need to be, and I think that's all this federal money, it needs to go to, we need to find ways that help, and we need to make sure we're not duplicating. And I think in so many instances in Columbia, people want to help and they want to do good, but then they just start doing something that someone else is already doing and either end up splitting the resources or doing it worse. And so I think, in a lot of these situations, people are unhappy with the outcome, but rather than just throwing money at the problem or trying to reinvent the wheel, we need to assess the programs we already have, because if they're not working and they're inefficient, then that's a way we can fix them. But just throwing more money at the problem is not the answer.
Agreed. And I applaud this woman for 2 reasons. Number one, she's showing up.
She is.
She's showing up and telling the city council what she would like to see. And I applaud her. She wants to help the homeless. But all that's negated by, but the government should do it. How is it that these kids are, I don't know. Why don't you go do something? Why don't you do more? Why don't you get all those people that were at the Columbia City Council meeting last night? All those people saying, how is this possible in this town? The kids are going, how does this happen? Instead of going to a city council, why don't you all pull your money together and donate to the food bank of Missouri like we do every year? 874-9390.
Well, and I think you gave kudos to the Columbia Public Schools earlier this week, and you had said you had heard from lots of people that they dealt with homeless children and homeless families in a really good way, and were doing that in a way that brought them a lot of kudos. So I think in that instance, why wouldn't you go to those folks, have this woman go to those folks and say, okay, here are some people who are being served by the district who have wonderful things to say. How can we capitalize on what they're already doing and support them in that program? If we have things that are working, let's do more. Let's find ways to do more of that.
Off the text, 874-9390. As a former school board member, I can tell you for sure that is a true statement about free and reduced lunches being given to all students throughout this year. 874-9390.
Just a quick note here, Branden and Stephanie, and that is what you just said is spot on about one key point, and that is anyone who chooses to testify. I believe the rule is one time per month. It's twice a month they have meetings. I believe that is the rule. But Rebecca Shaw was the first person who spoke. I do not know Ms. Shaw. Leaders Who Lead was her topic. That was either Rebecca on that soundbite or it was a lady named Danny Perez. Ms. Perez was speaking about her topic was addressing systemic poverty and racial inequity by building economic security with the ARPA funds. But anybody who wants to, I believe you're limited in, I think it's 3 minutes, but they do that at the beginning of the meeting. And there was someone who spoke about the Wabash Center last night, somebody who talked about community violence, and Jeff Stack testified too.
Yeah, there is a lot going on last night. I'm telling you, these people, they want to take all your tax dollars and redistribute it to other people. What's the classic definition of, insanity and socialism? Let's take your dollars and give to these people who, in a lot of cases, and it's not everybody, but a lot of people, they know, why should I do anything? People are going to go to the city council meeting and ask that I get some of that $25 million because of the color of my skin. Why should I go out and do anything? There's people in the city of Columbia constantly fighting to get me free stuff from Hannah's tax dollars and all that money that Brian Hauswirth, as the news director for the entire Zimmer Radio Network, they want to take Hauswirth's money and give it to other folks. 874-9390. David, welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
I almost took away some of my thunder, but yeah, that's what we're doing. We're paying for other people's laziness is what we're doing. And that's what gets me more than anything. That's the welfare state. I always said all along, we shouldn't pay more than for 2 kids for welfare, because this is where it's become. It's the you owe me generation. And why should we pay for other people's kids? Every time I hear people say, hey, we should take care of the hungry kids. I said, well, where are they at? I said, if we got hungry kids around, we should take them kids and give them to people who actually will take care of these so-called hungry kids, because apparently their parents are not taking care of them. There are people who every day are wanting to adopt kids that would love them to death and will take care of them, as opposed to these people these kids are almost throwaway kids. It's disgusting.
David, thank you for checking in from Perry this morning. Welcome into the show, Brian Hauswirth of Representatives. What's happening in the Senate right now? They're still going at it?
They're still going at it in a nutshell, basically, and the Democrats right now have the floor. I know Mike Moon's going to try to get it back as a point of personal privilege, but I've been monitoring as best I can. I've been on the air as well. But right now, there are a couple of Democrats who are just lambasting Attorney General Eric Schmidt, accusing him of politicizing his office, using his office to get headlines. And see, this is the thing. They've got the floor as long as they don't, and they can talk as long as they want. They're really hammering Eric Schmidt right now on the floor. That's Doug Beck.
In his 8-year period, they had 2.13 million jobs.
All right. So that's what's happening in the Missouri Senate right now. They're
Doug
talking
Beck.
about redistricting. Yeah. Stephanie Bell is here. Good
morning.
There's Hannah, the producer.
What up?
Wait, Brian, don't go. I need some of your expert guys, because there's more. I'm telling you, man.
I understand.
Go to these city council meetings. People want to take all your tax dollars and give it to things that they don't make sense. And I'll tell you why this statement doesn't make sense.
I mean, I really just got to say, I regret not speaking to this topic at the last meeting that this came up for discussion. And I didn't do that because I really thought it was a no-brainer. And I know I feel foolish about that now, like really foolish. And I'm pretty cynical, like really cynical. But I really thought, like, of course they're going to raise this temperature threshold. I mean, who wouldn't do that? It's obvious that this is a thing we need to do. But anyway, here I am.
So why wouldn't we do that? Well, there's a lot of arguments. And actually, the arguments, not even arguments, facts. These are facts. When it comes to opening up that Wabash station, guess what it costs? Money. Guess where they get their money from? You. And they have problems, certifiable problems. These are problems that have been documented for years, and we keep throwing money at that.
Yeah, that's documented. And after the 7 o'clock news, Branden, I've got a 20-page report back on my desk with some more details. But I've read it, so I'm going off my memory here and a couple of highlights as I recall. Number one, what they're saying, the city, and again, this lady testified. She's a member of the public. And basically, a couple things the city said in the report. Number one, Wabash Station, according to the city staff, is not a place that you want to have an overnight warming center, particularly during a pandemic. Apparently, the Columbia Fire Department is supposed to limit it to 13 because of occupancy, etc. Sometimes they have as many as 24 in there because it's so cold.
So is what happens too is that they've got to send law enforcement there. They have constant problems. They got to throw money at that. They don't let these people use the bathrooms and stuff. And by the way, I've done extensive work with homeless folks for a lot of years now. As a matter of fact, coming up Friday, February 18th, we are presenting an exclusive video-only event here on 93.9 The Eagle. We have a homeless gentleman coming into the show. We have a formerly homeless family. This is at noon, video only. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube. We have a formerly homeless family coming on to the show. It's a different set of circumstances for these folks. Love Columbia. This is happening noon. Feel Good Friday. This is an exclusive video-only event on our YouTube channel, 93.9 The Eagle, and you'll also be able to watch on Wake Up Columbia. So, yeah, all that stuff is great. It costs money. Why don't you go out, instead of begging for taxpayer dollars, why don't you go and get private funds to do this? We don't have a problem with the idea. We have a problem with how it's paid for. Man. Coming up, Fox News host going after Trump. I was kind of surprised. Here's the things we're getting into spring. There's still some things you can do. General yard cleanup right now. They're not going to clean up the snow, obviously. You wait for the snow to melt. But some things that you can think about here in the coming weeks. Man, it's the 8th of February. March is going to be here in 20 days, man. We're getting there. They can trim bushes and shrubs. But the thing I really want you to think about long term. Think about, because you want to do this now. You don't want to wait till July and say, hey, can you come and provide lawn service every week? You want to do it now. Call Salter. One call does it all. Talk to them. Hey, we'd like a regular service. I don't know, twice a month, 4 times a month. That gives you a lot of free time. You don't have to be out in the hot, muggy weather when you call Salter, because Salter, one call, does it all.
Catch Wake Up Columbia on demand anytime, all the time at 939theeagle.com.
I'm not a fan of Republicans going against Republicans because the only ones that win when that happens are the Democrats and the media.
It's Nikki Haley, and she's not talking about what's happening in the Missouri Senate right now, which, by the way, is still in session. Brian's got the lowdown coming up at 7:03. What happened there last night, overnight, and what is still happening? It's not even 7 o'clock. They are still, the Senate still in session, 7162 map. We'll have full details coming up. That's Nikki Haley. Talk about Republicans going against Republicans because who wins? It's the Democrats. Welcome into the show. I want to highlight something here really quick that Brian Kilmeade said yesterday on Fox Nation, and it caught my attention because it's something that I've been saying for a long time, and people get mad at me. And I'm not saying, well, see, Brian Kilmeade says it, now it's right. It's right because it's what I believe. But I think more people are starting to pay attention, including Brian Kilmeade. He has a caller call in on Fox Nation, and he's asking him. He says he voted for Trump twice, voted in 2016, 2020. Wanted to ask what he thought about this talk that Trump is still going around, and a lot of other folks, not just Trump, it's a lot of other folks going around talking about the stolen election of 2020.
And right now, nobody cares about 2020. Nobody. And everything that he said and the challenges that he made should have been done before the election. And they did a recount in Arizona, and the recount showed no difference almost. And he came out and said it showed that they won Arizona. That's an outright lie. And please stop wasting our time with that because he's capable of doing so much more.
I don't know how to put it any more succinctly. Just my opinion. You might disagree. That's cool. But I keep telling people this. Got to quit talking about the stolen election. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I'll go back to the teepees out there on the Yellowstone Ranch. They have theirs, and you've got conservatives, you got liberals, and you got a bunch of people. You have a whole bunch of people that aren't in either teepee. And when people start talking about, well, the stolen election and this, you lose them. You lose them. I promise you. You lose them. You got to stop it, man. Man, I sound off. Do I sound cranky this morning?
No.
Good. Coming up, are they still in session in the Missouri Senate? Yeah, they are. Still. City Councilman Matt Pitzer, he's going to be joining us 7:35. I want to talk about some of these things that happened at last night's City Council meeting. Let's take your tax dollars and give them to everybody else. He's here at 7:35.
A top White House advisor is out of the job. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, but Dr. Eric Lander did not get the treatment President Biden vowed for those who disrespect or talk down to others.
I promise you I will fire you on the spot.
The White House did not fire him, but rather allowed him to resign after initially defending him in his post. Now, the president's top science advisor, Eric Lander, who advised on issues like the pandemic and mask and vaccine mandates, now out after that internal investigation showed he mistreated and bullied his staff.
That's Fox's Griff Jenkins. The president's urging American citizens to leave Ukraine, worried about a possible Russian invasion.
I hate to see them get caught in a crossfire if, in fact, they did invade.
Standing with Germany's leader, he warned Russia again, our allies are united, preparing severe economic punishment. The White House will today urge Americans, especially those with low incomes, to file their taxes to get the expanded child tax credit as soon as they can after IRS monthly payments ended and the Biden social spending plan stalled in the Senate. With COVID cases falling from the record Omicron wave, several states are going to undo some mask mandates.
I think this is something we've earned, Connecticut. We've earned it.
Democratic Governor Ned Lamont, Oregon and California, Delaware and New Jersey will lift some state restrictions, but local and school district mask mandates could remain. And we have an update on the school mask fight in Virginia. Fox's Evan Brown has it live.
Yeah, Dave, Virginia's new governor, Glenn Youngkin, campaigned on ending mask mandates in school and upon taking office issued an executive order making face coverings optional for students. And while a court blocked that order after a small group of parents from Chesapeake sued, demanding all kids be masked, the Virginia Supreme Court is now dismissing that lawsuit, allowing the mask optional order to stand. The High Court says in its ruling that the parents suing lacks standing and that it wasn't opining on the legality of the governor's order, Dave.
Evan, Hyundai and Kia are recalling almost 500,000 vehicles that have and could catch fire, telling owners to park them outside, not in garages. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're living with aches and pains, especially if they're frequent and nagging and relentless, I want you to take a moment and think back to the last time you really felt good. Can you even remember what it felt like? Now, here's even a more important question. What would you give to go back to feeling like that again? Maybe it would just be nice to take a stroll with your loved one or play with your grandchildren. I've suffered from persistent, crippling pain almost all the time for about 5 years. When I started taking Relief Factor, I took it because my wife made me start taking it. I didn't think it would work for me. Yet here I am today, virtually pain-free, doing the things I love to do, all thanks to my wonderful wife and Relief Factor. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Are you part of that 70% that can get your life back? Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be to order the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. relieffactor.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:03. We do have clear skies in Columbia. Our sunrise will take place here in about 8 minutes at 7:11. 35 right now in Columbia. It's 34 degrees in Jefferson City. Our high today will be in the upper 50s, and then we'll be sunny again tomorrow, high 53. We start to cool down again on Thursday. Today is February the 8th, 2022. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories that we are working on for you at this hour. As we speak in the Missouri Senate, a filibuster is continuing right now. It's been going on since about 4:45.
I'm sending it forward.
Please send that amendment forward.
It has not been distributed. I move for a waiver of the reading and will not close until it has been distributed.
That's Senator Caleb Branden speaking there to a Democratic state senator on the Senate floor. So they're trying right now to see what can continue. We guess, just talking to various senators, this is going to continue right now. This sounds like a procedural motion. But again, a filibuster has been going on all night. There's some senators who've gotten up to talk about George Floyd, but most of the discussion right now has been on the Senate floor, and it involves Attorney General Eric Schmitt, as Democrats for the last hour to 2 hours been accusing him of politicizing his office, being more interested in headlines than in helping people with recalls for their vehicles. The big issue issue here is congressional redistricting. And until that is settled, they're talking about these other issues right now. The GOP-controlled state Senate has voted 24-8 to reject the 7-1 congressional map, the GOP map. 14 Republicans voted against the 7-1 map, including 3 GOP state senators who represent mid-Missouri: Columbia's Caleb Branden, Jefferson City's Mike Bernskatter, and Shelbina's Cindy O'Loughlin. Springfield Congressman Billy Long, who's seeking the GOP Senate nomination, wants the lawmakers to approve that 7-1 map.
I tweeted out a simple tweet. It said 7 + 1 makes 8. 6 + 2 makes no sense.
Congressman Long spoke on 93.9 The Eagles' Wake Up Columbia 7-1 supporters rallying Monday in Jeff City. Some Republicans say they support the 6-2 map because they worry 7-1 would lead to a lawsuit. Also at the Capitol today, legislation repealing Missouri's gas tax increase will be heard this afternoon in the capital city. Ashland State Representative Sarah Walsh testifies at noon before the House Special Committee on Government Oversight. She tells 93.9 The Eagles' Wake Up Columbia Missouri has plenty of money to fund infrastructure. She says millions of dollars are coming in federal money heading here. It was a bipartisan bill that did pass last May. Missouri lawmakers approving the gas tax increase. It increases the state's gas tax by 2.5 cents per gallon for 5 years for a total of 12 cents. Supporters of that say that Missouri hadn't had a gas tax in more than 25 years. Jefferson City authorities say a white powder found in a package delivered in the mail Monday to the Department of Corrections Central Office on Plaza Drive contained a main ingredient for Tylenol. Our sister station KWS reports 50 to 60 employees at DOC Central Office on Plaza Drive were evacuated after the package was opened. That's near Highway 179. Plaza Drive, it's right behind that Sonic. The employee who opened the package was monitored in an ambulance. Central Office has reopened, and the investigation is continuing. Columbia City Council hopeful last night's vote to add a full-time position for solid waste packers will make trash collection operations more reliable. Council has voted to add a new job title called solid waste packer. Multiple people could be hired. And Boonville authorities are warning everyone across mid-Missouri to be on the lookout for telephone calls that supposedly are coming from Amazon, but they're not. The people calling on the phone are asking about an order, although the people receiving these calls are not placing any orders with Amazon. Boonville Police Chief Bobby Welliver tells 93.9 The Eagle he's never heard of Amazon calling a consumer directly. He says this is a scam, and he is urging residents in mid-Missouri to simply hang up. Most of these calls seem to be going in the Boonville area, but if you do get a call like that, you're being urged by Boonville's police chief to simply hang up and report it to the authorities. 93.9 The Eagle News brought to you by The Candy Factory. The Candy Factory is in downtown Columbia. Online, Candy Factory, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News time, 7:07. Turning our attention now to sports, 7:07 here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. Mizzou men's basketball team is on the road in Nashville, Tennessee to battle Vanderbilt tonight. Vandy, that game will take place at 8 tonight, late tip-off. It's actually 9 o'clock out there. They're on the Eastern time zone. The Tigers 9-13. They're coming off Saturday's road win at A&M. Tip-off our time tonight, 8 o'clock. Catch all the action. Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino beginning at 7:30 tonight on Zimmer Station KCMQ, FM 96.7. 93.9 The Eagle Sports brought to you this hour by Steve's Pest Control. They have 5-star service, stevespestcontrol.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:08. All right, Kevin, thank you. And our weather is also brought to you by 5-star service with Steve's Pest Control, stevespestcontrol.com. Here in Columbia, it is 35 degrees. It's 7:09, 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. Our traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. No major issues this morning. If you do see something we need to know about, you can call or text us at 573-874-9390. We'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
We, the people, seek your vote to preserve the full $25 million in ARPA funds. We ask this in order to provide necessary resources and services to the members of our community disproportionately impacted by the deep-seated causes of racial inequity and poverty.
So it's color of the skin. That's why more and more people were affected by COVID. That's what folks last night city council meeting want to do with your money. They want to take your taxpayer money and throw it because it's racism. City Councilman Matt Pitzer joins us 7:35. We'll talk some more about what did happen at last night's city council meeting. Man, I wish more people would get involved. And I know we say this a lot, but I go back to Stephanie being on the Board of Aldermen in Ashland. And I look at what happens at the city council meetings in Columbia. All of these people last night saying, hey, we should do this with ARPA money. From what I saw, there was nobody saying, oh, wait a minute, you want to? No. But they're going, and they're taking part. And I hate it because it's wrong in my opinion. We'll have more on that 7:35. By the way, so there's a lot happening in Jefferson City this morning. It's either there's a lot happening or really kind of nothing happening right now. Senate marathon session. Senate. This is in regards to the 7162 map idea.
It really is. I would say that there is a lot going on here because some of it clearly, you had Arnie Dienoff. That was a really good interview here about an hour ago. And he's absolutely right. A lot of this would be going on behind closed doors, but really some of it is going on the floor. Well, and I apologize for the quality of that sound at the top of my newscast. Obviously, there's no video quality, but I could hear what Caleb Branden was doing. But basically, what he was talking about is an amendment, and we couldn't hear everything right there. But basically, Caitlin Schallhorn just tweeted the amendment he was referring to is all of Jefferson County would be in the 2nd district, all of Franklin in the 3rd district, which is Blaine Lutkemeyer's district. Taney would be split. That's the Branson area. Billy Long, I don't think, is going to care for that, but I mean, they'd split that. That's a heavily Republican district. I think some of that would go to Jason Smith. Most of Lincoln County would go up into Sam Graves' 6th district. He says CD would gain 4 points from the current proposal. Now, this is primarily aimed, I think, at Republicans. There are going to be some Republicans who don't like it. Jason Smith clearly wants Jefferson County in his 8th district. And then the Democrats have been using, is the Republicans are kind of at odds, and let's face it, they're at odds. The Democrats have been able to go on the floor, and I've been listening to it, and they have just been lambasting Attorney General Eric Schmidt by name. Essentially, they're saying he has used his office to seek headlines, and Senator Roberts wants him to investigate this Tory Sanders case. So, and then other Democrats are saying he hasn't done anything to help people with recalls on their vehicles. So they've been hammering, and they've been on him on the mask issue as well. So as that goes on, Democrats have a chance to go to the floor, and then Mike Moon, a Republican, actually wanted to adjourn the session and go home for the year, and that failed. So
for the year?
Sine die. Sine die. I think he was trying to send a message, but obviously they are required under the Constitution to pass a budget. They would have to come back to do that, and I think he was sending a message.
He just wanted to end the thing, which gets some headlines, like when he decapitated that chicken, which everybody. I mean, that was the last time really he made big headlines because people forget. But Hannah is somebody an egg. Isn't that what you do with chickens before you eat them? You kill them first, right?
Yes, you don't eat live chickens typically.
Yeah.
And the other, he also made headlines last week during this, right, and it got very little coverage until after the snowstorm, even from me, because the snowstorm. But he successfully filibustered the Republican governor's health director nominee. So Mike Moon, obviously, he's got some power. There's no doubt about it. He also is rumored to be someone who's going to run for Billy Long's seat. But we'll see what happens with this possible compromise. Also, Tiger King has come up as a matter of discussion, and then Senator Koenig has been reading a book about atheism.
Hold up.
And then if you go back to his dad, H.W. Bush, he had 2.6 million jobs. So if you add up the...
I don't even know know what
You missed the Tiger King.
I missed the Tiger King.
That's Doug Beck there. They've been talking about that's Doug Beck he's one that's very critical of the Attorney General. He's from Afton.
By the way, anybody watch Ozark while we're talking about hit shows on Netflix? I watched, I think, the first season of Ozark, and it was good, but I can't commit to anything. Stop it.
Yeah, I've heard that's true.
I love it. No, it's an intersection of a ton of stuff in my life, and so it has like politics and gaming, and I love the Lake of the Ozarks. And in my law firm, we practice a lot of gaming law. So I go to these conferences all over the nation, basically right after Ozark started. And, all the gaming people are like, Missouri, Ozark, and they think that's really funny. Also, my sister lived in a house in Nashville with a guy who was on Ozark. He was like the chop shop guy. He was only on for a couple of minutes, but we thought it was really cool.
That's awesome.
So some business at the lake, they sold something that's tied into the show. Because, the show is not actually filmed at the Lake of the Ozarks. I think the opening aerial shots are from the lake. Otherwise, it's filmed in Georgia because of the incredible tax credit. So somebody who used to date?
No, my sister lived in a house with a guy who was on Ozark.
So
Okay, draw me a picture here. Get the string out.
Explain it to me like I'm 2 years old, Stephanie. Like Brian explaining the vote against the 8-1 map. Can you explain it to me like I'm 2? I know a gal who, and I can't remember the guy's name, but while we're talking about another Netflix show, Yellowstone, the dude in the first season, the scrawny little cowboy with the beard and got the twang, and he plays the guitar and he's trying to do good, and he doesn't want any part of the criminal doings that are happening there. And towards the end of season 2, maybe, instead of taking him to the train station, the guy kind of like lets him go. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I know a gal, her name is Josie. She dated that guy when she lived in Dallas.
Really?
Yes. And I'm just like, holy cow, that's incredible. All right.
So what about Ozark?
Some business, the lake bought a sign that's from the TV show, and they're putting it at the lake or something like that. That's what I was going to say.
Wow.
I heard season 4 is the best season yet. I wish it was like, I think most people who are in lawyer shows or shows about your industry, I wish it was with respect to lawyering and gaming that it was a more accurate portrayal, right?
I like Jason Bateman.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, the acting on the show is wonderful, but I think the insinuation that about Missouri politics and about certain industries, I think is pretty far-fetched.
I've heard some complaints it's kind of critical of the gaming. I have not seen the show, but I've heard people complain it's critical of the gaming industry. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, I mean, the industry now is highly regulated by the state, and, the insinuations about what can go on in the industry. I mean, none of that would ever fly in today's world, right? And so, I mean, I think the industry's come a long way to develop a positive reputation in the communities and in the state, and I think the show kind of, paints it in a picture that, a lot of people have done a lot of hard work to say, this is clearly not the case these days. But nonetheless, I think everyone can recognize it's an entertaining show.
And by the way, ranchers out west, they don't kill that many people. You go back to Yellowstone, a lot of that stuff, Yellowstone, that stuff is accurate. Fights over land and water rights, BLM land versus Native American lands. A lot of that stuff is pretty accurate. They hype the killing. That doesn't happen as much in real life as we see on Yellowstone.
So we were talking about explaining things like we're 2 years old to try to understand. Todd off the text at 874-9390 said, Branden, you need things broken down Mr. Potato Head style.
Thanks for that, man. We appreciate you. Okay. According to KOMU, the set director of the Netflix hit series Ozark has sold the sign from the Blue Cat Lodge, where a large portion of the show takes place, to the owners of the Alhana Resort and Marina.
That's neat. Well, and I know down there on the Strip, there's like a bar that's called like Marty Bird's, and it's kind of decorated in the theme of the Ozark show. And there, I think the lake has just gotten a lot of hype, not only from that, but, remember like the pool party pictures from COVID? I mean, it's gotten a lot of hype. And I think what they've seen, though, like the tourism numbers are through the roof. And so, you can say what you want about the show or about the photos going viral. I do think it's been kind of a positive for the lake. I mean, it's a beautiful place, and even though most of it was filmed in Georgia. I
Still,
think people
don't know. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah, they start researching and then they realize how big that lake is, how beautiful it is, how cheap it is to vacation or live there. And I think it's been, overall a positive for the area.
It doesn't seem right to me that some businesses at the lake are basing themselves off the Netflix show. Like, shouldn't the Netflix show base themselves off of businesses actually at the lake?
One of the pieces, Brian, I don't know if you're very familiar with this. I just caught a glancing headline of it. But again, because we had somebody on last year talking about this, but I think there's some proposed legislation this year for in Missouri to be able to offer some better tax breaks for the filming industry. Because look at Archer, which is an animated show, that's done in Georgia. And it's an animated show on FX. A great show, by the way. But it's in Georgia. Yellowstone left. The filming crew for Yellowstone left Utah after 2 years because they lost their tax incentives, whatever it was, and then actually moved into Montana where their show pretends to take place. And they did that about 2 years ago. And I think there's legislation this year say, hey, can we do something here in Missouri? So maybe that crew from Netflix, maybe the crew from the Ozark TV show could actually come here and provide more money.
There's a bill that's filed every year on that, Brandon. Every year I call it a perennial bill. It's a minimal amount. I don't have the number right in front of me, but we're talking a small amount. It's in the millions, maybe $5-6 million a year. That tax credits. When we talk about it, some people say that's a lot of money. It obviously is, but we're talking about a $38 billion budget. There's usually a proposal to increase that by $1 million. Tax credits are very controversial at the Capitol. There are a number of Republicans who don't like them. Some Democrats want to see it targeted to more of the poor, so it gets some bipartisan criticism. Depending on what it is, the housing tax credits generally have more support, specifically the low-income housing. But you're right, and there have been other movies. What was the movie? 3 billboards outside of, there was a movie and it won a bunch of awards, and it was Missouri was actually mentioned in the title of the movie. I can't remember what.
2 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, or something like that. Francis McDormand.
Yes.
Never saw it.
And
it is 3
I didn't
billboards,
either, but I know it got
2.
a lot of attention. That movie was not filmed in Missouri. And the supporters said, the tax credit supporters say, because of the tax credits, I believe was filmed in Tennessee, as I recall.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the Republicans historically, what was it, 10 years ago or something, there was a tax credit review commission, and there's been several omnibus kind of tax credit overhaul sunsetting bills. And that's been, kind of a broader look at all of the tax credit programs. And I remember, seeing lists of all the available tax credit programs and that being a big sticking point for Republicans. So I think anyone who was trying to get a tax incentive back would have a hard row to hoe.
Yeah, exactly. And if you remember, that was really the big thing. The soccer stadium was the first thing that Governor Greitens really hammered on when he became governor. But the next thing Governor Greitens was really focused on was get rid of some of these tax credits. He thought he felt like it was corporate welfare.
Missouri Senate still going, and they've been spending time in the Senate. They're hammering Eric Schmidt over things. So they're picking up where Billy Long left off on the show yesterday. This Wake Up Columbia. Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, Hannah the producer. My name is Branden. Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. Also changing politically. We have a local businessman who's going to be running for the 47th District State Representative seat currently held by Chuck Basie. Who is it? We'll find out coming up at 8:10 this morning here on 93.9 The Eagle. We're going to get into what's hot with Hannah. What do you have for us this morning?
Today's a weird national holiday, and I want to reminisce on something that happened on the show a while back.
All right, we're going to do that. What's hot with Hannah? Can't wait. We're doing that.
Branden, Rathert, and Wake Up Columbia. Drinking upstream from the herd. 93.9 The Eagle.
7:25-ish, which means it's
7:29.
time for What's Hot with Hannah. I'm sorry. We can do it at 7:35 to give you more time, and we can bump Matt Pitzer by a few minutes, talk about some of the highlights from, by the way, big thing happened at last night's city council meeting that hasn't happened in a long time. I want to cover that with Matt, too. We'll do What's Hot. I'll tell you what, Hannah, I feel bad. I'll bump Matt a few minutes so we can do What's Hot with Hannah at 7:35. I'm sorry. We're running behind, but
So you're going to short Matt, too?
these two over here, Brian and Stephanie, they get
save it.
Good.
Save it.
Matt Pitzer and What's Hot with Hannah coming up at 7:35 here on 93.9 The Eagle. I have your ABC 17 storm track forecast. We're going to melt some snow today. 57 should be the high. 57 today. Then overnight 31. Tomorrow still pretty decent, man. High 53. Thursday not too shabby either. Thursday's high 43. It's 36 right now. Remember, you've got a friend in the pest control business, and your problem will be solved. And that's not just a guarantee. It is a personal promise from Steve. Find out about their 5-star service right now by going to stevespestcontrol.com.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Biden says a planned pipeline to bring natural gas from Russia to Europe will be shut down if Russian troops invade Ukraine. There's talk of compromise after a meeting yesterday.
French President Emmanuel Macron is visiting Ukraine today after a 5-hour meeting with Russia's leader in Moscow. Putin said the talks were substantive, but he repeated a threat of a possible war if Ukraine was to join NATO.
Fox's Simon Owen. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is asking for an end to traffic-blocking trucker protests against COVID-19 restrictions that started in the capital, Ottawa.
Freedom Convoy organizers say allegations of hate crimes committed by demonstrators are a distraction from their broader message. So far, at least 20 demonstrators have been arrested, while hundreds of traffic tickets have been written and police have opened at least 60 criminal investigations.
Fox's Jackie Ibanez. America's listening to Fox News.
And now, award-winning news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com.
93.9 The Eagle News with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:31 right now. We do have bright sunshine in Columbia. Our sunrise took place about 20 minutes ago or thereabouts. 35 right now in Columbia. It's 34 degrees in Jefferson City. Sunny today, our high 57. Cloudy skies tonight, low near 31. And tomorrow, sunny again and a high of 53 degrees. 2 words for you, folks, so we're going to get right to it, and that is black ice. I hit some this morning. I'll talk more about that in a moment. We got a major problem right now out on southbound 63. They have a problem with black ice. Just got off the phone with Joint Communications, and we've got a road that is blocked. Well, we've had callers say it's actually shut down. I just talked to Joint Communications. It is not shut down, but it is blocked, causing problems. Black ice there, and we're talking about southbound 63 running parallel to Conley Road there. They're trying to get that salted and get wreckers out to the scene. So if you're in that area, heavy traffic apparently, and be prepared for that. I also hit some ice this morning, black ice, getting onto Interstate 70 from the Lake of the Woods exit, and that area has been problematic for several days. So there are spots that do have black ice, but right now the big area to avoid if you can is southbound 63 near the connector 70 and 63, just south of there. It'd be just south of there, running parallel to the Walmart. We'll keep you posted on that. Meantime, the Missouri Senate has been debating the controversial issue of congressional redistricting all night. They remain in session at this hour in Jefferson City as we speak. Democrats are filibustering right now. Some Republicans had filibustered earlier. A couple of Democrats are right now on the Senate floor. They are talking about movies that are being made in other states. They're talking about that right now. They've also been talking about Attorney General Eric Schmidt suggesting that he has politicized his office, more interested, they say, in news headlines than in helping people with recalls for their vehicles. Some Republicans have also been speaking. During the late night hours, the GOP-controlled state Senate voted 24-8 to reject the 7-1 GOP congressional map. 14 Republicans voted against that 7-1 map, including the 3 GOP state senators who represent mid-Missouri, Caleb Branden of Columbia, Jeff City's Mike Bernscatter, and Shelbina's Cindy O'Loughlin. So again, the filibuster continues right now. A number of Senate hearings have been postponed for today. And until further notice, this filibuster will be continuing, at least on the Senate side. Now to the House, where legislation to repeal Missouri's gas tax will be heard in a few hours in Jefferson City, about 4.5 hours. Ashland State Representative Sarah Walsh testifies at noon before the House Special Committee on Government Oversight. She tells 93.9 The Eagles Wake Up Columbia Missouri has plenty of money to fund infrastructure. Because of the federal money coming in, Missouri lawmakers approved the bipartisan gas tax in May. It increases the state's gas tax by 2.5 cents per gallon for 5 years for a total of 12 cents. A $1 billion program aimed at battling climate change has been unveiled by the Biden administration, and U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, who spoke in Jefferson City. The top USDA leader spoke at Lincoln University on Monday.
It's designed specifically to expand markets for U.S. agricultural products and forestry products through voluntary deployment of conservation practices that will lead to the production of these climate-smart commodities.
That audio courtesy of the USDA. Public and private entities can apply, including state governments, federally recognized Native American tribal governments, public and private higher institution educational facilities as well. And Columbia officials have concluded the Wabash Station is not an ideal location for an emergency overnight warming center in any year, and is especially unsuitable during a pandemic. Columbia City Council heard a detailed report last night about homelessness. That report notes there's no feasible way to maintain social distancing at Wabash to mitigate the spread of disease in that environment. The report concludes by saying the safest environment for Columbia's homeless is in an emergency shelter where protocols are in place for COVID safety. And coming up after this newscast, we'll have a live interview with Columbia City Councilman Matt Pitzer about this and other council issues. 93.9 The Eagle News brought to you this hour by Dr. Kent Willett Dental Associates. Make an appointment now, 573-445-5300, WillettDentalAssociates.com. 93.9 The Eagle News time, 7:35. In sports, Mizzou men's basketball team on the road. They're in Nashville battling Vanderbilt tonight. Tigers 9-13. Tip-off our time, 8 o'clock tonight. Catch all the action with Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino. 7:30 is their pregame, the Central Bank Tiger Radio Network. Catch it on the Zimmer Station, affiliate KCMQ, FM 96.7 tonight, and you'll hear it with Mike and Chris. Matt Michaels also involved with that coverage. Our news time, 7:36. And our traffic check brought to you by MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. Again, Boone County Joint Communications telling 93.9 The Eagle there has been black ice reported, confirmed black ice out on southbound 63 near the connector. It's just south of the connector. We have had a crash. No word on any injuries, but wreckers are trying to get to the scene right now. It is blocking the lanes. They're not actually closed, but traffic is backed up. Avoid the area if at all possible. Again, that is near, kind of running parallel, if you will, to the Walmart there on Conley Lane. Black ice also reported in several other locations this morning. Give yourself some extra time. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Four out of 10 kids are right now at home, many of them probably hungry. We're not going to be hungry. All of us are going to go home. If we want a snack, we'll get one. They're hungry. How in a city of this kind of wealth do we have 4 in 10 kids whose hunger, her basic human need, isn't met?
Maybe if people like you would talk about this wealth that I'm sure you enjoy, maybe you could help by doing things like we do here at 93.9 The Eagle, and like Stephanie and Hannah and Brian Hauswirth that I did 3 months ago. Holiday 1-for-1 holiday food drive. That's what we did. We didn't go and beg the government, hey, $25 million. I want some of this, man. No. We went out and did it privately. We did it through charity. And here you are bragging about the wealth in Columbia. Then why are you going to take my tax money and I'm going to take it from this guy. I'm going to take it from Branden Rathert, and I'm going to give it to this person over here. We're going to cover more of this. City Councilman Matt Pitzer coming up here shortly on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. Brian Hauswirth texting with Holly Rader. They're still going at it in the Senate. I will share this. The last text that I received just minutes ago from Holly Rader. This is the 7162 thing. She says, last text, she says, I think we might have it worked out.
Wow.
And then in all caps,
Maybe.
That's from Holly Rader.
That's a great report. They're talking right now, just so you guys know, about St. Charles County, Jeff County, St. Louis County, and Jill Shoup is up on the floor right now. Reported, according to Caitlin Schauhorn, Jill Shoup is on the floor saying that she's basically been written out of Congressional District 2 under this latest proposal. So that's going to take some time. That's certainly because she wants to be in Congress. I mean, she ran last year.
Brian Hauswirth keeping tabs on that for you. There is Hannah, the producer.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. I told Matt Pitzer that we're going to be a minute or 3 late because...
I feel bad for Mr. Pitzer.
Well, me too.
He's suffering because you can't be on time.
Well, I feel bad. Hey, I'm not the only one. There's 4 as a team. It's not me he's not on time. We are not on time. And we didn't have enough time for What's Hot with Hannah. I'm being serious. I feel bad. Like the morning bell at 8:25 with Stephanie Bell, business news with a little twist that only Stephanie can do. When I'm late for that, and when we're running behind for I do feel bad because those are your moments to shine even more than what you already do.
You must feel real bad because it happens every day.
But you know what? I'm working on it. So what's hot with? So I told Matt Pitzer it might be a minute or 3. So what's hot with Hannah today?
Basically, every day I look to see what sort of weird national holidays there are. Today is Extraterrestrial Culture Day, and it reminded me of one of my favorite moments on the show when we had an alien expert come on, but but it's not exactly what we thought we were signing up for when we invited this guest on. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So how did you go about booking that guy? You thought that he was coming on to talk about the Pentagon and their UFO report?
Yes. And so you thought you had a UFO expert.
Oh, he did.
And within about 2 questions, he basically said aliens are real. And the color of your face when you realized we had taken a turn from UFO expert to alien guy.
Probably the best part of that, though, happened in the commercial break immediately following when Stephanie Googled this guest's name. And one of the first things that pops up is an academic article that he has written saying that Jesus was an alien. So I just thought we should reminisce on that. That's all.
So really, this national holiday and What's Hot with Hannah is just an excuse to poke fun at.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Did you even Google this guy before you put him on air? And then I Googled him, and I thought...
I called a guy who knew a guy. Hey, can you get me a guy? Yeah, I got a guy. Let me hook you up with this guy over in the Bronx, and he'll get you the guy that can get that guy. Got this guy, Matt Pitzer, City Councilman. Matt, I'm sorry to make you hold and sit through all that.
Oh, I love the Jesus is an alien intro. That's what I look for.
Hey, so this is kind of alien to me. This is not, in the city council meeting last night, I was trying to think, Matt, I cannot think the last time that this has happened in the city of Columbia. There were some important things coming up last night. Like, the meeting was only 2.5 hours long. Usually these are, 4-hour and 50-minute marathons. What happened that it was so short, relatively speaking?
Yeah, I know. And 2 hours and 25 minutes of it was on one subject, too. So that was...
Yeah, and what was the one subject?
Well, the homeless situation and dealing with the emergency, sort of overnight warming center.
Yeah, and I've expressed my opinions on that. By the way, we have a very special, exclusive, video-only event next Friday, February the 18th. You'll be able to watch this on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page. You'll be able to watch it live on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search 93.9 The Eagle. And you'll be able to watch it. And is what I'm going to do. I have a formerly homeless family coming in and a currently homeless dude coming in and the folks from Love Columbia. And I'll tell you, this was all born out of having an open mind. People think, oh, you're closed-minded, and you think, no, that's absolutely not true. I had two folks, Stephanie Bell included, when I talk about homelessness. And I've done a lot of work with homelessness over the years. About the majority of homeless people do not want any kind of help. They just don't. And I get frustrated when I see local leaders say, oh, we got to throw money and build a shelter and plant some roses and butterflies. No, it's not going to work, I promise you. But people like Stephanie Bell, another good friend of mine, said, hey, maybe a homeless family, it's a different situation. And I talked, this was off air, it wasn't on air. I spoke with folks at Love Columbia and I learned more. And that's why we're doing this February the 18th. And it's going to be video only. Make sure you're watching it. Interesting perspective. So, point of that story, see, I do have an open mind and I do listen. We're going to cover that, by the way, in listener mailbag. Somebody who thinks I am closed-minded. So what did you guys decide, Councilman?
So we're raising the minimum temperature where the overnight shelter will be open. So basically all this discussion has been through the winter months. We used to have a threshold of 9 degrees where the overnight shelter at Wabash, the old Wabash station, would be open overnight, and then that was up to 15 a few weeks ago, and then there was just a lot of public input last night that it should be higher than 15 degrees. And, maybe even, available all the time as an overnight option. And which is great. All those people that want that, I think they should go out and they should raise the funds so they can pay to rent the Johnny on the spot, so they can pay to clean the place up, so they can pay so taxpayers aren't paying. These are all great ideas. They are good. You want to help the homeless. That's beautiful. It is. Go out and collect the money. Don't take money from me for this stuff. I want to ask you this, Councilman. One of the things that occurs to me, I'm big about getting involved, getting active, go, say something, whatever. The majority of people that I'm seeing at these council meetings are things that, taxpayer money for this and taxpayer money. Pat Fowler is going to introduce this and ARPA money. We're going to change $25 million. You're sitting up there on the dais. And it occurs to me from what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty much, last night as an example, you're getting testimony, you're getting public comments from people that only want this. And I'm thinking your mindset as a city council person is, man, these are the people who are coming and talking. This is what everybody wants, because seldomly do we see people go and say, no, I don't think this is a good idea. Is that kind of the impression you get sitting up there at the dais during these meetings? Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last night as a perfect example, really. I mean, that was an organized campaign by a group of activists to, fill the council chambers and, provide all this testimony and, give the appearance that there's this, sort of broad public support for this idea. And I'm sure that there is, some, but the idea that it's like this unanimous opinion that this is the way to go is not true. So the thing that does kind of irk me a little bit is when these organized campaigns of to drive people out in support of an idea, kind of bleeds over into saying, oh, well, this is obviously what everybody thinks. Therefore, it's the only reasonable solution.
Well, I hope people like Carl Scala, Andrea Weiner, and Pat Fowler, I hope they realize that. I seriously doubt it. City Councilman Matt Pitzer joining us here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
Branden, thank you, Councilman. We always appreciate you joining us. Just one quick question. It's about this very issue. 13-page report that is obviously was the focus of discussion and the testimony as well. But the biggest takeaway I had from reading that report is that the city staff concludes that, these are their words, the Wabash Station facility, quote, is not an ideal location for an emergency overnight warming center in any year, comma, and it is especially unsuitable during a pandemic, end of quote. And that report also mentions the extensive cleaning needs that are done by the transit custodial staff. They have to clean the facility at 6 a.m. So how much discussion was there about this aspect of the pandemic, about lack of social distancing, and any decision about the custodial staff, what they'd have to do if this were to continue?
Yeah, I mean, look, those are, I think those have been the hang-ups. If those problems weren't there, this probably would have happened, weeks ago. So I think that there was, eventually got to the point where there was a council majority that said, okay, in spite of all that, hey, go figure this out. And that's where we came down last night. But yeah, those are absolutely concerns. I mean, Wabash as a overnight shelter, I mean, it is small. It's not, equipped to really serve that purpose. I mean, it's just like an empty building. I mean, and there's just cold, concrete floor. I mean, it's, if you were going to pick a place, you wouldn't pick that place. So, that's just one of the very few sort of city-owned spaces that could be repurposed to be used that way. So, no, it's not ideal. And I think, if this is what we're going to wind up doing, we need to find some space that is more, sort of quote usable and doesn't face the challenges that Wabash does.
Right. City Councilman Matt Pitzer, talking about last night's city council meeting. It sounds like we got the big things. Anything else you want to add quickly before we let you go?
No, but I think you're right in terms of, people need to be aware that there are these, drives to, spend the money in these certain ways. And, Councilmember Fowler introduced a resolution last night as well to spend the entirety of the ARPA funding, which is about that $25 million on social justice issues. And that will be discussed, not at our next meeting, but the first meeting in March. So, people need to be aware that is out there, and, they should let their opinions be heard.
Thank you for saying that, because it's something, Stephanie and I believe in this big time. You got to go, because that's the impression, and I'm glad that you see it.
The city is so big on studying and relying on experts and performing, investigations/studies. But, are you looking at, I know the Missouri Municipal League and other entities are really putting out a lot of information about what cities can and can't do with ARPA funds and maybe best practices. Beyond just listening to residents coming in, is the city conducting any sort of independent evaluation of where those funds might be best utilized?
Yeah, we've talked about and we looked at all the guidance on how that money can be spent, and I don't think there's. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, how it could be spent, and this social justice aspect is like one subcategory of one of the broader categories. So broadly speaking, it's like hazard pay for frontline workers, it's broadband, it's water and sewer infrastructure, and then there's like economic issues. And then this, idea falls under, sort of that bucket. So I think we're pretty clear on how it could be spent. It's just that there is this movement from what I think is a minority of council members and probably a minority of city residents to, push for doing it all in this one area.
City Councilman Matt Pitzer, thank you so much for your time on the show. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
All right, keep fighting the good fight, man. I'm glad he knows that. These activist groups that go out and do that crap. Coming up. Coming up, 8:03. Brian Hauswirth is here looking at what's happening in the Missouri Senate regarding the 7162 map situation, if that's what you want to call it. And a local businessman has announced he's running for the 47th District State Representative seat currently held by Chuck Basie. Who is it? We find out at 8:10.
And the Oscar could go to, I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, The Power of the Dog.
25 years since our first run together.
That movie leads the way with 12 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Dune is also up for that, and 9 other Oscars. The other Best Picture nominees just announced: Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. We'll find out the winners March 27th. The White House is about to make a push to urge Americans, especially those with low incomes, to file their taxes so they can soon get the rest of the expanded child tax credit money. Monthly IRS payments ended in December.
Workers without children also need to file. The relief package nearly tripled the earned income tax credit for workers without dependent children, meaning that many could receive credits worth $1,500.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers, a top White House science advisor, has resigned after Dr. Eric Lander's staffers complained about him mistreating and bullying them. Lander was not fired, like President Biden vowed he would do to anyone who disrespected or talked down to others. France's president is in Kyiv the day after meeting in Moscow with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who keeps being warned not to invade Ukraine. President Biden, with Germany's leader by his side, again warned of severe united economic punishment.
We are jointly ready, and all of NATO is ready.
A week after easing some nuclear sanctions on Iran, the Biden administration resumes talks today, trying to undo what President Trump did.
European diplomats say negotiations on restoring the Iran nuclear deal are reaching the final stage. Teams have been meeting for almost a year after President Biden said the U.S. could return to the agreement if Iran stops violating its terms.
Fox's Simon Owen. The accused grocery store shooter in Richland, Washington, is behind bars, tracked down on a highway about 100 miles away last night. One person was killed. A store employee was also shot and is in critical condition. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active. Whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising, you know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. Edie's 8:03. Sunshine right now in Columbia. 36 our current temperature. 35 degrees in Jefferson City. It's going to be cloudy today with a high of 57. Cloudy tonight with a low near 31. Tomorrow sunny and a high of 53 degrees. Good morning, everyone. And here's some of the stories that we are working on for you at this hour. Let's start with a traffic update right now. Some good news. Authorities have cleared the wreck, according to Joint Communications, in the black ice area on southbound Highway 63 near the connector. Wreckers have arrived on the scene, and if it's not cleared, they've certainly been able to move the vehicles off to the side, so traffic is flowing again in that area. But be prepared for some black ice, which has been a problem area on the last couple of days here in Columbia as some of the snow melts and we still have some ice that refreezes in the evening. Our other big story right now going on as we speak in Jefferson City, the Missouri Senate is still in session right now. Filibusters continuing. There's some Republicans who've been on the floor. Some Democrats have been on the floor. The Democrats have used their time to criticize Attorney General Eric Schmidt for how he has handled himself in office. They say he's more interested in news headlines. Republicans are on the floor right now. Denny Hoskins of Warrensburg is on the floor. He has asked Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden to come to the floor. Rowden has just arrived at the Senate. Been listening to that. Rowden is saying that this is a compromise. Hoskins is saying compromise with who? Who have you compromised with? And Caleb Rowden is trying to answer those questions right now. That's happening literally as we speak. So I haven't heard his answer as of yet. But that is what's going on. The GOP-controlled state Senate has voted 24-8 to reject the 7-1 GOP congressional map. 14 Republicans did vote against 7-1, including 3 GOP state senators who represent mid-Missouri. Jeff City's Mike Bernskatter, Columbia's Caleb Rowden, the majority leader, and also Shelbina's Cindy O'Laughlin, who has Randolph County. Springfield Congressman Billy Long is running for the U.S. Senate, wants lawmakers to approve that 7-1 map.
I tweeted out a simple tweet. It said 7 + 1 makes 8. 6 + 2 makes no sense.
And Congressman Long spoke on 93.9 The Eagles Wake Up Columbia. The 7-1 supporters did rally yesterday at the State House. The Republicans who support 6-2 say they worry that a 7-1 map will lead to a lawsuit. So Caleb Rowden has unveiled a brand new map right now. In our area, Moberly, under this new map, Moberly-Randolph County would go up to the 6th district. It's currently in the 4th with Vicki Hartzler. It would go to the 6th congressional district, which would be represented by Congressman Sam Graves. Again, that proposal right now on the table. USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack in Jefferson City yesterday unveiled a $1 billion, billion with a B, program aimed at battling climate change. He spoke at Lincoln University and unveiled that program then. There was a scare yesterday at the Missouri Department of Corrections headquarters in Jefferson City on Plaza Drive.
A little before 11 Monday morning, a package came in the mail to the Department of Corrections central office on Plaza Drive in Jefferson City. When the person at the front desk opened it, an unknown white powder substance was found inside. After several hours of testing, they determined it was acetaminophen, the main ingredient in Tylenol. 50 to 60 people, though, were evacuated from the building, and the employee who opened the package was isolated in an ambulance and monitored. Employees were eventually allowed back to work. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
All right, John, thank you. Appreciate your good work this morning. Our news is brought to you this hour by the Callaway Bank. The Callaway Bank has a dedicated customer care team. They get you the help that you need and deserve. Callaway Bank, it's with you for the moments that matter. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:07. Turning our attention now to sports. The Mizzou men's basketball team is on the road in Nashville. They'll play Vanderbilt coming up tonight. The Tigers 9-13, coming off that big road win, come from behind against A&M on Saturday. Tip off our time 8 o'clock. You can catch all the action with Mike and Chris, Central Bank Tiger Radio Network from the Learfield Group, starting at 7:30 tonight. Zimmer Station KCMQ will have the call, FM 96.7. You can catch Mike and Chris with that. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:07. All right, Kevin, thank you and great work this morning. Our weather's brought to you by Steve's Pest Control. They have 5-star service. Find out more, stevespestcontrol.com. Here in Columbia, it's sunny, 36. And our traffic check is with MidmoHires.com. Local companies looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. It is 8:08. Again, that crash has been cleared, at least moved off to the side of the road, if not cleared altogether, in the black ice southbound 63. Kind of running parallel with Conley Road in the Walmart. Wreckers arriving on scene. No reports of any serious injuries in that one. If you do want to report a traffic issue, call or text us 573-874-9390. Also, be careful out on sidewalks. There is black ice in a number of parking lots across Columbia today. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
I'm not a fan of Republicans going against Republicans because the only ones that win when that happens are the Democrats and the media.
That's Nikki Haley. She's not talking about what happened in the Missouri Senate, Republicans going against Republicans. She was actually talking on Fox about Pence saying that Trump was wrong, and she may have been talking about Brian Kilmeade, Fox Nation, saying what I've been saying for a long time. Listen, you can't campaign on a stolen election 2020. And here's why. Hear me out. And I know people get upset every time I say it, but I'm having a very healthy discussion with somebody via text about this. You can't go and campaign stolen election 2020. Because listen, you have the people in this TP, you have the people in this TP, and there's a lot of people milling out around the TPs. And I promise you, if people are campaigning on the election was stolen, well, guess what? It's 2022 now, man. And there's a lot of things that conservatives can actually win on. I'll go back to Caleb Rowden's speech at the Boone County Lincoln Days a little over a year ago. What did he say conservatives will win on?
Education.
Education. And he has been absolutely correct in that. We saw what happened with that gubernatorial race back east with Glenn Youngkin and Ralph Northam, to name just a few. So Brian Kilmeade, yesterday, Fox Nation, he has somebody saying, hey, he's saying, this caller says, I'm somebody who voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for him in 2020, but I don't like this talk of stolen election. It's not helping at all. Brian Kilmeade's response.
And right now, nobody cares about 2020. Nobody. And everything that he said and the challenges that he made should have been done before the election. And they did a recount in Arizona, and the recount showed no difference almost. And he came out and said it showed that they won Arizona. That's an outright lie. And please stop wasting our time with that because he's capable of doing so much more.
Let's move forward because there's a lot of things that we can do really well on. Stop it. Seriously, it doesn't help. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Columbia. I'm Branden Rathert. There is Hannah, the producer. That's Stephanie Bell. There's Mr. Brian Hauswirth.
Good morning, sir. It has been a very busy morning, and we are delighted to welcome to the program John Martin. John Martin is going to be running for the Missouri House. Filing begins in 2 weeks, about 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from today in Jefferson City. Mr. Martin is seeking the seat that is currently held by State Representative Chuck Basie, and he joins us live here on the program. Mr. Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you coming on. I want to start, and I know Stephanie and I have questions about the race, some very brief questions, but I do want to start with the actual district right now. Mr. Basie's district includes part of Columbia. It includes Harrisburg, Bunker Hill, all the way up to Renwick and Higbee, Roachport as well. But it's being changed right now, and I can't find an electronic version of the new map, but I know it goes into Columbia. Where are some of those changes, the biggest changes right now?
Well, towards the north, one of the biggest changes, it now includes the city of Sturgeon. Shree Rice used to have Sturgeon, but now includes Sturgeon, and then so that's good news. I got a lot of great folks in Sturgeon. Then it heads west to Harrisburg, comes on down to Midway, goes all the way down to Huntsdale, and then basically by the Huntsdale over, then through catches the Hinkson Creek, and then comes on over through southwest Columbia, comes down to Forum, basically where Forum and Hinkson, the Missouri Athletic Center, and then loops up there around Schnooks there on Forum, and goes down West Boulevard. And when we hit Broadway, then it goes due west on Broadway, basically over to Stadium, and then kind of goes north then and keeps going on north where it eventually picks up 63 and through Sturgeon, things like that. So it went quite a bit deeper into southwest Columbia. It used to include southwest Columbia, but even deeper now all the way over to West Boulevard in that Schnooks Forum area, Chapel Hill area, a little deeper in there.
So can you talk a little bit about your decision to jump into the race? I'm always fascinated at what was kind of the tipping point of kind of sitting, watching what's going on. Obviously, you're paying a lot of attention to what's going on in mid-Missouri, but what was that choice where you said, yep, it's my turn, and you raise your hand and want to run?
Sure, I appreciate the question. First of all, our country, it's worth fighting for. When I think of our children, our grandchildren, our future, the blessings that we received from our founding fathers, and then our veterans that have fought for the freedoms we have, and that it's worth fighting for. And that's something. We have so many challenges in our country, and so I think we need a whole new wave of conservatives, people that have common sense, good Midwestern values, that are saying, listen, I want to jump in and help our country to stay strong and not to continue to slide.
Sure. So in watching our current elected officials, they've kind of been at odds with some of the, general Republican views, or the majority, over the last years, for example, on the gas tax. Have you been watching those issues and kind of considering where you might be on some of those?
Yes, I have. Yes, I sure have. Yeah, I think one of my campaign objectives, for example, would be this whole theme of less work. And I'm a small business owner. Just finished up my staff meeting just a few minutes ago. Every one of us, we're paying tax dollars, obviously, to the state, sales tax, our income tax, our state income tax come out of our paychecks every week. I want to see a state that's using their funds wisely for MoDOT, for good roads, good education. We fund education. We need to hold them accountable. We need to support our education, but hold them accountable. So there's a number of things, that are very, very, very critical issues.
8:15 is our time. You're listening to us live on 93.9 The Eagle. This is Wake Up Columbia. John Martin is our guest. John, one final question. I really appreciate you joining us. And I know it's early. Filing's going to start in 2 weeks. There'll be a lot of folks down there. That is a huge day in Jefferson City for filing the first day. It's always the biggest one. But if elected, if you win the primary in August, and if you're elected to the Missouri House in November, again, what would be, let's say, two or three issues you'd really focus on? I know you touched on a little bit with Stephanie, but three things you'd take down to Jefferson City and focus on for this new district in terms of a boundary.
Sure. First of all, as a small business owner, again, that theme of let's work. I want to see our state continue to be open for business, economic development, where we are developing jobs, encouraging people to work. That's one thing that's sad right now. We have a Democrat leadership in our country that are paying people not to work. And every day I'm in restaurants and servicing restaurants, and there are grease traps and septic tanks, that we got business people that we just can't find workers. And so we've got to turn that around and encouraging people to work and get that going. So economic development, education, obviously holding our schools accountable for what they're, the state funding that's going to them. Are they teaching our students, the basics and getting that done right? And then also, I'm pro-life. And also pro-Second Amendment, encouraging. So some of my work, honestly, may just be simply voting no on things that are coming down the pike that take away freedoms. And listen, no, we want to ensure solid freedoms that we've been given to us, and say no to some things. And so some of that would be part of that work as well.
John Martin, in real quick, do you have a campaign website or any way people can take a look or get a hold of you?
The best way at this point is to email me. The email address is martinfor47@gmail.com. martinfor47@gmail.com. Still working and building on the website, getting that all together. I appreciate people's support. But get a hold of me, martinfor47@gmail.com.
Mr. Martin, thank you so much for joining us live, sir. We wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Columbia. Off the text. I wonder if we have time to get to a mailbag this morning. So we've got a lot of interesting stuff. Hannah, stop it, man. Come on.
Anytime you start a sentence with, I wonder if we'll have time to, the answer's no. The answer is no.
People are talking about, the Ozark TV show, there's a business that's got a sign from the actual TV show. People have been texting us about Missouri-centric movies because we got talking about 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which was not filmed in Missouri. Ozark, which is not filmed in Missouri. But I think they did some opening footage. I think the opening where they sweep over the lake, I think that's Lake of the Ozarks. So we've got some messages on that. Somebody vehemently disagrees with Brian Kilmeade's comments. This was on Fox Nation. Yesterday, somebody's calling in saying, hey, listen, man, I voted for Trump 2016, 2020. Will likely vote for him again, ideally, if he runs in 2024. Brian, the stolen election talk, I'm just not on board with it. Your thoughts?
And right now, nobody cares about 2020. Nobody. And everything that he said and the challenges that he made should have been done before the election. And they did a recount in Arizona, and the recount showed no difference almost. And he came out and said it showed that they won Arizona. That's an outright lie. And please stop wasting our time with that, because he's capable of doing so much more.
That's what I've been saying for a while. He agrees with what I've been saying. Whether it's true or not, listen, there has not been proof to prove that there was enough fraud. I'm not saying fraud doesn't happen. Believe me, I spent a lot of time on the Heritage Foundation website. You would be shocked at the number of cases that have to do with the type of election fraud here in Columbia, Missouri. Seriously. This is not helping, in my opinion, any kind of conservative movement, or more importantly, it's not helping to attract new people.
Yeah, I think it suppresses the vote. I think if people think that their vote doesn't count, then they won't show up to vote. And so I think we want people to have confidence. And I think in Missouri, you can have confidence that when you show up, your vote is going to count. And, we didn't have any funny business in Missouri. We've had Breonna Lennon. We've had the Secretary of State. Last cycle, we had, decent election integrity. Actually, I think really good election integrity. That's not to say that there aren't things that we can do to better our election integrity here in Missouri. But I think the people have to believe that when you show up, that your vote will count. And again, anything we can do to ensure that people aren't voting twice, because if we have a system that allows people to vote twice, then we're diluting all of our votes, and no one wants that. So, I think we have to look at the facts.
And I'll put it this way. So, because believe me, I don't want to sound preachy. I really don't. But I'm passionate about conservative, independent stuff. And anybody, I think, will get my back on this issue. As a matter of fact, every time I go to the Columbia Pachyderm meetings on Friday, they give me heck because I talk about I'm the youngest guy in the room, and the messaging to a new generation of people. As a matter of fact, I was talking with 2 different people while I was in Idaho. I disregarded the disconnect law because when people with the last name of Zimmer start texting me, I respond to that stuff. I don't
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. But they were incidentally talking about messaging on things, and I said, yes, I'm big on this. And the Columbia Pachyderms people lovingly get mad at me when I say we got to message differently. So let me ask this question. Let's say, you're somewhere and you're talking to a 25-year-old independent, not quite sure, still learning their way, or a 35-year-old female that's not quite, maybe evolving. Do you think, and you don't have to answer this out loud, but listen, do you think going and, the election was stolen, 2020, fraud, the Democrats stole the election? Here's the question. Is that going to draw new people to us? No, it's not. That's why I appreciate Lawrence Jones. He's got a new show on Fox. He talks about messaging. And this goes back to, you talk about like books written by some of these conservatives and the way the books are written. And it can be difficult reads for a lot of people that you're trying to attract to. Listen, here's what conservatism is about. It's not about complaining about stolen elections. It's about freedom. It's about choice. It's about doing what's right. That's what conservatism is. It's not about whining about an election. That's why I appreciate Lawrence Jones. He says, people don't want all this high-class talk. See, this guy's got a TV show now on Fox, brand new. He says they want something that is simple and related and that they care about, i.e. education. All right, we got to get to the Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell. What do you have for us this morning?
A merger that has me wondering, do two negatives make a positive?
Math? Electrons, neutrons? That's
always certain. Sometimes right. This is Branden, Rathert, and Wake Up Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle.
Hey, welcome to Spirit Airlines. What do you want? You want to book a flight today? Of course, girly. And did you actually want that flight to land safely? Yeah. Okay, that's going to cost extra.
That will get us into the morning bell with Stephanie Bell coming up here in just a minute. But want to take Paul's phone call really quick regarding homelessness in Columbia. Paul, I got about 30 seconds, man. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't understand why, as a taxpayer, I'm footing the bill.
Yep.
I worked or volunteered. I won't say worked. I volunteered at the homeless shelter during Christmas a while back, and I'm still seeing the same people that are doing it. We don't enable drug addicts to give them their drugs. So why are we enabling these people? I just don't understand why the city of Columbia thinks, or anybody, to be honest with you. I understand you can have some compassion for some people, but don't put it on my bill.
Amen, Paul. I'm not paying for your compassion. I, too, am a very compassionate person. I've done a lot of work with homeless people over the years. Matter of fact, we have a very special video-only event coming up Friday, February the 18th, where I'm going to be sitting and chatting with a dude who's homeless, lives under a bridge in Boonville. Going to be chatting with a family that was formerly homeless. Going to be chatting with Love Columbia. I would highly encourage you to make sure you join us on our YouTube channel Friday, February the 18th. Very insightful stuff, I think, is going to be taking place. Would love for you to be a part of it. We'll have more details on that. And I do want to get to your question, Paul. We'll do that coming up here at 8:35. Right now, it's 8:29, time for the morning bell with Stephanie Bell. You want me to move?
Yikes. We can cover this really quickly. Do two negatives make a positive?
Math or science. Isn't that two negatives make
Well, Spirit and Frontier, I think, who don't enjoy the best reputation among airlines, are in talks to merge a $6.6 billion deal. Of course, it still has to go through the regulators, and of course, the regulators haven't been too keen on previous mergers between airlines, but maybe these two coming together might signal something better. Apparently, if they combine, they would have more than a quarter of the share of the market at the Orlando airport, so they'd be a big company.
So see, kids, math. We've all learned a little something this morning. Two negatives might make it. And the other thing is it relates to us here. Those are airlines, by the way, that have been talked about coming to the Columbia Regional Airport. So there could be some benefit to all that. I do want to get to Paul's question regarding this problem that leaders have, thinking our tax dollars should be used to be thrown at homelessness and stuff like that. We'll cover that. Might get into the listener mailbag, too. A lot of interesting stuff. Missouri-centric movies, things like that. We're taking bets whether or not that's going to happen at 8:35. ABC 17 Storm Track forecast up to 57 today. Remember, you've got a friend in the pest control business. They will solve your problem. StevesPestControl.com.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. A man suspected of shooting two people, killing one at a supermarket in Richland, Washington, is arrested after a manhunt.
Store video footage shows Aaron Christopher Kelly and the man who died having a conversation before the shooting. It's not clear if they knew each other. The man who was injured in the shooting is a store employee and was listed in critical condition after undergoing surgery yesterday afternoon.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. The man killed was a grocery delivery driver, 38-year-old Justin Crumbaugh. Top White House science advisor Eric Lander resigns and apologizes, accused of bullying staff. The Oscar nominations are announced. Up for Best Picture:
Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story.
The announcement on ABC. The Academy Awards ceremony is March 27th. America's listening to Fox News.
And now, award-winning news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. Right now, we do have bright sunshine in Columbia. It's 37 degrees, sunshine in Columbia, and we're expecting a high of around 57. Cloudy tonight with a low near 31. Tomorrow is Wednesday, sunny again and a high of 53. degrees. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. The Missouri Senate continues to debate right now the controversial issue of congressional redistricting, and there has been a filibuster that has been going on the Senate floor. Lots of inquiries, some Republicans getting up to talk about the various maps, some Democrats getting up to talk about Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt. But the GOP-controlled state Senate voting last night, late last night, right before midnight, 24-8 to reject the 7-1 GOP congressional map. Now, some supporters of 6-2 on the Republican side say they worry a 7-1 map will lead to a lawsuit. Legislation to repeal Missouri's gasoline tax increase will be heard this afternoon in Jefferson City. Ashland Republican Representative Sarah Walsh will testify at noon before the House Special Committee on Government Oversight. Walsh tells Wake Up Columbia Missouri has plenty of money to fund infrastructure. The nation's agriculture secretary traveling to Jeff City Monday announcing a $1 billion federal program. It is aimed at combating climate change, strengthening rural communities as well. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says it will open up revenue streams for America's farmers as well as ranchers.
It's why I'm here today to say that we are now in a position at the USDA to begin accepting project applications for this new climate-smart commodity opportunity.
Secretary Vilsack says state governments, city and county governments, and small businesses can apply along with public and private entities. Lincoln President John Mosley joining Secretary Vilsack in Jefferson City. Columbia officials have concluded the Wabash Station is not an ideal location for an emergency overnight warming center in any year, is especially unsuitable during a pandemic. Council had a more than 2-hour discussion on this issue last night. The council also voting last night to approve a new job title. It's called Solid Waste Packer. Multiple people could be hired for trash collection. The city hoping that will help make trash collection operations more reliable. No impact on the budget because of several vacant positions. Our news is brought to you this hour by the folks at Hemi Construction, homes and lots, southwest neighborhoods of Chapel Hill Meadows, Nursery Heights, Creek's Edge, Timber Brook as well. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. In sports, the Mizzou men's basketball team is on the road in Nashville. They'll battle Vanderbilt tonight. Tigers 9-13, coming off that win at A&M. Tip-off set for 8 o'clock tonight. Catch all the action on our Zimmer station, KCMQ, starting at 7:30 with Mike and also Chris Trevino. Sports brought to you this hour by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. And our traffic check is brought to you by MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. Roads right now pretty quiet in mid-Missouri, although we've had some black ice reported on the roads this morning in certain spots. Hopefully that will all basically melt, if you will, today with our high of 57. We're going to have another warm day tomorrow. Hopefully that will go away. The problem is our overnight low tonight will be 31, so if it's wet, it could refreeze coming up tonight. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Four out of 10 kids are right now at home, many of them probably hungry. We're not going to be hungry. All of us are going to go home. If we want a snack, we'll get one. They're hungry. How in a city of this kind of wealth do we have 4 in 10 kids whose hunger, her basic human need, isn't met? Somebody make that make sense for me.
Okay, I can do that for you. You know, we talk a lot about 93.9 The Eagle and Wake Up Columbia. We're a local morning show. We try to, anything that's going to affect your life that's happening here in town, and sure, we cover the state stuff, and there's been a lot happening. And are they still in session? Is the Senate still in session?
The Senate is still in session right now. They appear to be at ease. I've been listening on and off as best I can because I've been on the air They seem to be at ease.
Are they taking a smoke break? Is that what you mean when you say it? I'll go out and having a smoke?
I'm thinking probably some negotiations. Caitlin Schallhorn, our friend at the Missouri Times, has just tweeted, can we get a waffle bar up in the Senate press gallery for waffles? So Caitlin has been on scene since 4:45 yesterday afternoon covering that. As you can imagine, that's pretty crazy.
When I went to Truman State University during finals, you could swipe your lunch card, go down to the cafeteria about midnight, and they had a cake donut bar.
Oh.
And it was just stacks of cake donuts, bowls of frosting, and then like sprinkles and nuts and coconut, like all the toppings. And I still, whenever I have like a late night, I start craving cake donuts.
Pancake City was up there too, there in Kirksville, yes.
So let me explain this to this. This is a woman at a city council meeting last night, and is what she's asking. She is asking for your taxpayer dollars. And they'll say, oh, it's not taxpayer dollars. See, this was money from the federal government. These are ARPA funds. Where did that money come from?
Well, apparently it just grows on trees, according to Joe Biden.
We got a tree out back, and when we get done taking this smoke break so we can talk about what we're doing here in the Senate, we're going to go pick some money. These people, seriously, I'm blown away. Blown away at the stupidity, really, of a lot of these people. I get the compassion, want to help people. So this woman says, please explain how there's hungry kids. And, well, explain to me why I have to pay for that with ARPA money. No.
And if they're going to school, they get 2 free meals anyway. And there's already money to cover some of these things. I agree. Kids should not go hungry. But we have some money already dedicated to these causes.
And you're compassionate enough to go and talk to city council. By the way, this was an organized event. Check out the podcast later this morning whenever that gets up on 939theeagle.com. Matt Pitzer. Matt Pitzer he's very business, very even-keeled. About as fired up as I've heard him before. I was talking about these activists. They organize, they do a rally, and is what happens, to the point I was making like 6 o'clock this morning, is then you have people, and Pat Fowler, hook, line, and sinker. Of course, we know how Pat Fowler is anyway. Andrea Weiner, hook, line, and sinker. Oh, yeah, throw away tax. Take your money and give it to other people? Sure, I'm all about that. I'm a liberal, progressive Democrat. That's what we do. We take money from these people and give it to people, that haven't worked for it. If you're that passionate about it, all you people that were at this thing last night, open up your homes to the homeless people. Invite them. If you're so compassionate about it and you care so much about it, have these people come stay with you. You feed them. I'll go back to we're a live local radio station, which is why I'm explaining it for this woman. That's Come on, interns.
What was that?
We need when's this latest semester over, Hannah? We need some new interns.
Man, what a professional.
Don't play Wild Cherry. Play that funky music. I want you to play this.
Whose hunger, her basic human need, isn't met. Somebody make that make sense for me.
So we're making it make sense for you. You don't take my tax dollars and my friends and family and people I don't even know, friends I haven't met, people listening. Don't take their tax money and put it into a homeless shelter because it's not going to work. You take the homeless people into your house. You sound like you're very caring. I suspect you'll take action. All of you people who were at the city council meeting last night. Invite the homeless to live with you. Build a farm in your backyard, and you can plant rose bushes and bring in butterflies, and you can experience utopia. Paul, does that answer the question that Paul had earlier? How do they I can't explain it's mind-numbing. They just think this money grows on trees, and it simply does not. And the Wabash warming station. We need to. Hell, it's 50 degrees. We need to open it up for the warming shelter. Okay, great. You go out there and man it. And I'll tell you what, all of you that were at that city council meeting last night, instead of at the city council meeting next time you're all trying to do this activist BS, bring the collection basket like they do at church. Pass it around in the city council meeting. You all take up some money, and then you can hire the extra. You can pay for the extra police it takes to man the Wabash Center. You can pay for the cleanup. You can pay to rent those Johnny on the spots because they lock the bathrooms inside anymore because they've been ruined so many times. That's what you do. I'm explaining it to you. That's how you do it.
Matt Pitzer did say on air, he alleged on air with us, Branden, that it was an organized effort. It really wasn't grassroots. That's what he said. The other thing that's in that report, and it was it did get a ton of attention. He's absolutely right, more than 2 hours, but it was not an action item. It was a report. But one of the suggestions to what you're suggesting, one of the suggestions in the report, because the council have to take it up, is instead of the janitorial staff doing the cleaning every morning at 6, they're suggesting two things. Number one, instead of off-duty Columbia cops, police officers going in there, using other people to do it, maybe security officers. And two, trying to recruit volunteers from the community to clean the bathrooms as opposed to the janitorial staff. Because according to the report, it is extensive.
All right. By the way, several texts. Let Hauswirth know that just west of Millersburg, it's shut down to one lane. Very bad accident involving a couple of vehicles. One apparently is burnt completely down. We will get on that. Thank you so much for the heads up again. We talk about serving our hometown. It's things, whether it's great things, whether we're calling and having conversations about homelessness and where your taxpayer dollars should be going for all that stuff, and calling out the absurdities and the actions of these people that live here amongst us. Man, this is how this affects you. These people live here, me and you, and they just think they should take all your tax dollars and give it to other people. That's bull. But it's local radio like that explaining to this woman at the meeting last night who doesn't understand. Hopefully she has a better understanding now. And then people like Aaron that will text in and say, hey, man, there's a traffic issue just west of Millersburg, shut down to one lane. Bad accident. Cindy off the text, no such thing as government funded. It's all taxpayer funded. The government does not make money. They take it. That's bottom lining it for you.
Hashtag truth.
How about that? 874-9390. Need to have the homeless people clean up after themselves. Yeah, that's a great idea, right? Great idea. We'll be chatting with a homeless gentleman. He's been on the show before, and his experience is the experience that I've had dealing with homeless people for the better part of 12 years now. They don't want to be in homeless shelters. And I'm baffled because these people, they get money, my money, your money. They get Cindy's money, Shelly's money. They get their money and they throw it here. They don't want it. They don't. More text. Maybe the homeless should clean up the. Have them do it. And by the way, I want to make a couple of delineations here because I have an open mind. I'm always willing to hear other points of view. Quit laughing, Hannah. It's true. Listen,
I'm just saying, if you have to keep telling people that you have an open mind, like,
well, because if you have to tell people that you have an open mind,
it's probably not that open.
No, but I have two very good examples.
Uh-huh.
You have friends with an open mind?
Well, I'm just going to take my ball and go home.
Boom, roasted.
Oh, by the way, SAPA argued in front of Missouri Supreme Court yesterday, or
the Second Amendment Preservation Act. The
so you just argued no decision.
No decision.
Yeah.
But you can get on the Supreme Court's website and listen to the arguments. The state's making a bunch of procedural arguments. The challengers are saying basically it's unconstitutional, separation of powers issues. So it'll be a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, I think, before we have a decision. But
challengers, Department of Justice, U.S. government.
The federal government did come in and argue, but more importantly, it's I think the St. Louis County and cities. There's a coalition of counties and cities that are challenging.
Where were we? Oh, yeah, you guys were picking on me.
Oh, you big crybaby.
No, here's what I was going to say, because I do have an open mind, and I listen, I swear. We've been talking about homelessness a lot over the past several months, and I did a documentary that won an award from the Associated Press. This adds context.
Okay.
Because I want people to know, like, I have a fondness for homeless people.
Okay.
homeless people that are honest about what they are doing. Okay. And I've said these people don't want help. They don't want to live in a shelter. And people that are in control of my tax money, they want to throw it at that. And they're so completely, doltishly wrong because they don't talk to the people that are actually affected. But my good friend Stephanie Bell, I got another good friend Marcy, both said to me on separate occasions, not together. It's not like they teamed up on me. Stephanie, remember that you said, well, but what about homeless families?
Yeah, we had talked to a homeless man who was a single guy, and I said, yeah, I mean, homeless life for a single guy probably, is easier than someone who, might have children, who has multiple, people who needs transportation to get their kids to school. I mean, a homeless life for a family, I feel like, would be more difficult.
And so I said, and I rubbed my chin and gave that reflective look like I was listening, because I used to be married. I know how to do that. I know how to pretend like I'm listening.
You did listen, though.
I
chin.
wonder why it didn't work out either time.
I rub my chin, and I'll even say, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'll nod my head. Because I've had But I listen. I had another friend, same thing, but what about... And so I learned more about it, and my opinion on that has evolved. And the other time recently that I was open-minded, willing to try something, because, listen, contempt prior to investigation, it throws a lot of people. I dislike that. Well, investigate it first. Don't have contempt prior to investigation. The other thing I was very open about, I had a friend recently says, hey, do you like ham and bean soup? I said, heck no.
Are you kidding?
Oh, God.
Oh, it's so good.
And she invited me over for dinner. I'll try it. This was not ham and bean soup. It was ham and bean stew, and it was incredible.
There is no better meal like on a snow day than ham and bean soup. Come on.
This was a stew. It was.
Did they make it with cornbread?
I don't eat cornbread. I'm not open-minded about
kidding?
that.
Brandon, I always knew you were full of beans.
You're voted off the island.
I'm open-minded about the things I want to be open-minded about. But I was open-minded about ham and bean soup. Right? I am open and I listen. Okay. We could do the mailbag before we I'm excited. My dad's getting really excited right now. He's probably getting onto his computer, bringing up 939theeagle.com online. He's going over to the right side of the website, clicking that big red listen live button so he can hear the Gary Nolan show. So I'm wondering, do we want to do the listener mailbag this morning, or do we want to do leftovers? Because, we have stories like this. Do we want to do leftovers or the listener mailbag?
I like leftovers.
Okay. The story that has Stephanie giggling. We're going to cover that in our leftovers. We'll do that coming up 8:54 here on 93, 8:55, 56.
This is Woke Up Columbia. And not really. Just kidding. 93.9 The Eagle.
We the people seek your vote to preserve the full $25 million in ARPA funds. We ask this in order to provide necessary resources and services to the members of our community disproportionately impacted by the deep-seated causes of racial inequity.
Oh, there's your Columbia wokeness. If you really cared, why don't you go out and do it? Don't take my taxpayer dollars for this. Welcome into Wake Up Columbia. Stephanie Bell, Hannah, the producer. I'm Branden Rathert. Chris joining us, 874-9390. What can we do for you, Chris?
Well, I just wanted to jump in on this. First of all, I don't know if anybody but myself noticed that when the COVID thing came along, a lot of the homeless advocates turned this into we have to get motels for homeless people because somehow if they're out in the open air, it's too dangerous for them, so we want to pack them into motels. I didn't quite understand the theory there other than we're just taking advantage of the situation. But this situation here in town, I look at it, it's charity. If you're sleeping under a bridge in 0-degree weather, I think you'd be a lot happier in a building that might have concrete floors but be heated. And that's, the old beggars can't be choosers. I don't see a big problem with it, but you can see where we're heading. We're going to have to get a hotel and a motel like everybody else got. And where that ends up, they tear that up too.
Yep, and that's the way. And those are facts, by the way. That's not being disparaging to a group of people. Those are facts that we see over and over and over again. All right, story and leftovers we didn't get to. You want me to handle this or you got it?
Apparently there are some swingers running for office. Is that?
So there's guys running for governor of Oregon. He's a Republican, so he doesn't have a chance, and you know what? But him and his wife, apparently they got busted on some swingers Facebook page, and he's like, yeah, we're swingers.
So what?
Yeah, so what? That's in your left. Yeah.